Welcome to the first episode in our new Contested Collections series, a monthly online presentation hosted by Warrington Museum's collections team. The sessions will use objects from the museum's collections to take a closer look at some of the hidden histories and untold stories that these objects can tell us. In today's session, I would like to take a closer look at an object from our African collection, a wooden bell donated by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Lyons of Appleton Hall. You will see that there is string attached to the top of the bell, which is holding in place horn clappers. On its exterior there are etched symbols or patterns, which are believed to have been produced by Dutch farmers on the Great Trek. The bell would once have been carried on the breast of a leading oxen of a Great Trek wagon. I decided to look at this object because, on first appearance, it seems relatively uninteresting. It is also pushed to the back of the display case and receives little attention from museum visitors. But in fact, this object can tell us a great deal about a period of great political and social change in South Africa, which we now have a closer look at. Starting in 1836 in southern Africa, the Great Trek was a mass migration of about 12,000 inhabitants of the British-run Cape Colony in what we know today as South Africa. Upon leaving the Cape, they travelled eastward by wagon train into the interior of Africa, hoping to live beyond the British colonial administration. The area of the Cape Colony and the area newly settled by the Great Trek travellers became what is today South Africa. The Great Trek was instigated by rising tensions between rural descendants of the Cape's original mostly Dutch settlers, known as Boers, and the later mostly British settlers who had taken control of the Cape on behalf of the British Empire. Various Boer communities at the Cape Colony wanted to live a more isolated semi-nomadic lifestyle than they had been able to under the British administration. The Boers who took part in the Great Trek identified themselves as Voortrekkers, which means pioneers or voortrekkers in Dutch and Afrikaans. Conflict amongst the Voortrekkers was a problem because the Trek levelled out the pre-existing hierarchy which had previously enforced discipline, and thus social cohesion broke down. The Trek leaders became more reliant upon matriarchal family structure and the military reputation to maintain control of their parties. This had a lasting and large impact upon African culture and society. The first wave of Voortrekkers occurred between 1835 and 1840, during which an estimated 6,000 people, roughly 20% of the Cape Colony's total population, took part in the Great Trek. In 1835, some 10,000 Boers are believed to have moved from the Cape Colony to the Orange Free State area in search of independence. It was Afrikaner oxen who drew the wagons that carried the Voortrekkers on the Great Trek. These hardy beef cattle were popular in South Africa and indigenous to the area. They have long lyra-shaped horns and are generally used for their milk and meat, but also as draft animals. Cattle were often driven in large teams, with as many as 7 harness pairs. They were bred and developed to suit this purpose and were prized by the Voortrekkers. The wagons pulled by the oxen were traditionally made with the side rising towards the rear of the wagon so that it resembles the lower jawbone of an animal. They were made from various kinds of wood with wheels rimmed with iron. In South Africa, the ox wagon was even adopted as a cultural icon. The commemoration of the Great Trek sparked mass enthusiasm among Afrikaners, with reenactments being carried out in small towns and cities of South Africa. Both participants and spectators dressed in traditional Voortrekker clothing. Streets were renamed, ceremonies held, and monuments erected, and wreaths laid at the graves of Afrikaner heroes. So we've reached the end of our first contested collection series. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have found it enjoyable. The next session will use objects from our South American collection to look at some of the struggles faced by Brazil's indigenous communities against exploitation. We hope to see you then.